You know, it's exciting, Colonel. I spent 3 years in the Army, and I really got to love the military life. At first, I didn't because they tried to change me, and I didn't think I wanted to change. But then I realized what they were trying to do. They're trying to mold me and make me into something they could use if they needed for fighting or whatever. And I finally understood that. And then I realized, too, it was a chain of command. And as far as, well, a captain went or so forth, a colonel, I says, oh my land. And then when I got a chance to meet you after I became a Christian and realized you were a Christian, and I'm thinking, I believe this colonel can really help us, if he will, in our discipleship program at Church on the Street. And somehow or another, God has really got a hold of you, and you've been doing some great and mighty things helping us. A colonel in the Marine Corps. What do you think about that?
God calls us all to do different things. For me, I look at these men and I see no difference in where I could have ended up. So God calls different people to do different things. He called me, whether I knew it or not at the time, to come and help Church on the Street. It's a ministry that really needs support. It's a ministry that makes a difference in people's lives. And it's a ministry that is going to continue growing because the homeless and the desperation is going to just increase as our economic situation deteriorates. We really need to get things going as a nation. And one of my big concerns is we're now seeing people who they're not addicted to drugs, they're not addicted to alcohol, they're not addicted to whatever, but they just don't have the financial wherewithal to make it. And if it isn't for programs like Church on the Street, these poor people have nothing.
You know what is exciting, though, is how God is able to change people's lives. I can remember when I was in the military. In fact, I didn't do too good in the military, but I did. I got a colonel gave me an award for the work I did. I was a tremendous worker. But when it came to my off time, I got busted 3 times, and the colonel says, how could this guy deserve a letter like this? They says, well, you didn't understand. When he worked, but when he goofed off, he goofed off. And then when I became a Christian, God seemed to put it all together, and I realize now that I got something to work for, and I don't have to goof off anymore. I don't have to drink anymore because I lost the desire because God changed me. He gave me a new heart, new mind, and that old crazy, I didn't have a criminal mind, but that old crazy lifestyle that I had, which totally destroyed me because I didn't know any better, was changed by the power of God. And now I'm seeing how He's changed me and how He's using us, all of us working together to build disciples, to build people for His kingdom. And just the fact that you've been able to come in and get that Marine mentality. Of course, you're very, 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 very intelligent. But just the simplicity of that Marine mentality that we need, the discipline and just submitting, getting involved, and just allowing us to go from there as God develops us.
So Jesus' message was very simple. Believe in your heart and confess with your tongue that Jesus Christ is Lord, and you shall be saved. When you plan for anything, simple is always better. We tend to overcomplicate our lives. We worry about this, we worry about that, we worry about the other thing. In reality, focus on the important things. The rest of it will take care of itself. It's the same way the military works. Your primary mission is this. Accomplish your mission, then we'll give you something else. Well, Christianity is the same way. We were given that great commission. Go out and make disciples of everyone in the world. Everyone doesn't just include the wealthy, the rich, the rulers. It includes everybody. There are many more homeless, there are many more people who are down and out and hurting than there are people who are, as you say, up and out. God calls us to go after that certain group of people that are willing to become his sheep. And it's a very simple message that we provide to them. We provide them the wherewithal and the understanding that even if you grew up in a fatherless home, even if you grew up in a loveless home, even if you grew up and you've had all these terrible things happen to you, you may not be able to control the circumstance, but you can certainly control how you react to the circumstance. And that's what God calls us to do. It's not we're going to save anything, it's God. We just need to lift Jesus up, and people will flock to him.
You know, it's amazing. You're very intelligent, you're very successful, but God has given you a desire to help the down and outers. And I think there's a lot of up and outers, if we may, that love the Lord, don't know how to do this. But for somehow or another, God's put something special in your heart to come down to condescend basically to this level where a lot of these people are, and you're able to relate to them.
I've dealt with problem youth for 30 years in the Marine Corps.
Good preaching.
We all come from dysfunctional backgrounds. Child abuse, sexual abuse, whatever. We all have that. Every single human being has that. We can either choose to overcome it or we can succumb to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like succumbing to anything. I don't like to quit. And I view it very simple. Either the world's going to beat me down or I'm going to be on the side of the winning side, which is Jesus Christ. I'm not letting the world beat me down. I've had bad things happen to me. I've had awful things happen to me. There's nothing I can do about it, but I can control my response to it. Success is built upon failure. When you choose to succeed, you're taking the failures of the past, you're understanding what went wrong, what went right, emphasizing the things that went right, and not doing the things that went wrong. It's the same process of growing in Christianity and the same process that's growing with Jesus. Jesus doesn't expect you to change 100% tomorrow. He picks the worst area in your life, he cleans it up, then he moves on to the next. If we were confronted by the totality of our sin, all the bad things we've ever done, we'd all die of fright tomorrow. It's a terrible thing to fall in the hands of the living God. But that's not how God works with us. He cleans up this bad area, makes us realize, oh, gee, maybe I ought to be doing this too. So it's a process. It's not a instantaneous. The only thing that's instantaneous is the salvation. Everything else from that point on is whether you choose to grow and follow and be a disciple or you choose not to.
That's exciting. One thing that it's the discipline that I've learned in the military and so forth has got my life straight, and it took quite a while even after that before I became a Christian. But when I became a Christian, I decided to follow God with that same discipline, what I'd taught, submitting to him, yielding to him, allowing him to rule and reign, allowing him to control. And from then on, my whole life was changed. And then it was just a matter of saying, okay, Lord, what is your will? And then he says, I want you to go in all the world and preach the gospel, win and build people. Because that's my heart. And then that's what's God's heart. And once I started doing that, he just made himself so real and manifested himself in my life to the point that I could see lives totally and completely changed. People that have been about as down, as low as you could possibly go, when they got touched by the power of God, they were changed. And this is what the people you're teaching here and now, we can see that. And how do you feel that, like working with these guys as working with young Marines?
The hardest thing to teach these guys is self-discipline. The root of any discipline is if you can't force yourself to do it, you'll never be able to convince other people to do it. You've got to walk the walk. You can't just talk the talk. It's great that I can say a little happy talk, but at the end of the day, if I'm not doing what I'm saying, the witness is ruined. What I've seen with these guys is there's a hunger and a thirst. Now, your gift is evangelism. And you know what? You do a great job with that. God didn't give me that. I do have some evangelism in me, but it's not like yours. God gave me the gift of teaching, understanding what they need and talking about the things they need. That's why when I first deal with a group of disciples, we go over the basic 4 issues. The first issue is manhood. Most of these guys never grew up knowing what a man was supposed to act like. The second thing we talk about is leadership. How can you lead others if you can't lead yourself out of the morass that you've put yourself into? Now, God will be there for you. He's going to lead, but He's going to put it in your heart to do those things. The third thing that we go through in the process is learning about relationships. Here's what's appropriate. Here's what's not appropriate. Not based on me, but what the Bible says. And the final thing we go through is simple things like finances. Jesus talks about money more than any other topic that He personally talks about in the Bible. If we can't teach these guys manhood, leadership, relationships, and finance, how can they be successful on the outside? They've got to change the way that they look at things, the way that they approach things. They need to be deliberate about their decision-making process before they can possibly move on to any kind of success outside of the program. And that's kind of what I do with them. And so when we talk about, like right now we're doing the book of Daniel, what we talk about go back to those same lessons on manhood, leadership, relationships, and finances. And that's really what it's all about. It has to become ingrained in them. Success breeds success, failure breeds failure. If you start having small successes, the big successes will come. If you start having small failures and you don't correct the behavior, then those small failures become big failures. And so there's a process that God works through. He's a God of organization. He's not a God of chaos. Amen. So we just have to organize properly to defeat the enemy. Amen. And it's not us, it's the power of Jesus that defeats the enemy.
That's it. It's just a matter of submitting, isn't it?
It is. You got to submit to the will of God.
The simpler, in fact, the more I become a Christian, I've been doing this for 46, 47 years, something like that, preaching on the streets, going to jails and prisons, serving Him, reading 5 chapters a day in the Bible, praying a lot. It's bringing me back to the simplicity of just letting Him have His way. He made the trees to be trees. They know exactly what to do because they don't have free will, they don't have choice. And that's, to me, I want to be just like a tree. Just submit to God, let God rule and reign, have His way, guide me in my life, and so then I'll know what to do. In fact, it's simply letting God be God. And as we do that, with your ability and your background, how you're able to teach these guys, with just and teaching them to basically be disciplined so they can learn to submit, so they can learn to get away from themselves, allow the Holy Spirit to lead and guide. And it's exciting. Not only that, but then we look to the future. Hey, these guys, this is something that God's put in my heart to do. I believe I'm going to help these guys to go on and really establish what God's called them to do. And that's what we're teaching, and that's what we're doing. So I want to just thank you for interviewing with us today, and especially the guidance you're helping us with Church on the Street. Really, truly appreciate that.
Guidance is from God. He gave me certain knowledge, talents, skills, and abilities. I appreciate your patting me on the back, but you shouldn't be patting me on the back. It's God. It's not me. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
God bless you.
Thank you.